My name's Lilo Bauer. This is Survivors Voices. Here with me today is Emma Borsellino to talk about her experience in the troubled teen industry. Hi, Emma. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm Emma. I'm 20 years old. My pronouns are she, her, and yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, when you were in the troubled teen industry, how old were you when you first were sent in?
When I first started, I was 13, and then I had my birthday like 2 weeks after I got there, so 13, 14.
Very young.
Yeah.
Were you groomed when you were 13, or was that later?
That was later. That was 2 years later. I think I just turned 16, and then they gooed me off to wilderness.
Yeah. What was that experience like at 13 years old?
It was horrible. It was horrible. I was not, I had just gotten, like, the whole previous year I was not in school because I was put on homebound instruction. I was getting bullied in school, so they took me out. And I just wasn't expecting that. When I went in, I was crying for like a week straight. I just didn't understand what was going on at all.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you
It
remember
was rough.
anything before you went in? Like what your life was like? Like, do you remember how happy?
Yeah, I was like I said, I was put on homebound instruction, so basically I was getting tutored for 2 hours a day, and then I was just honestly like my mom would take me to the skate park for like the rest of the day, and I would be like, there for 6 to 10 hours. So I was just kind of doing my own thing, and like I didn't really have any friends. It was just me and my mom. But it definitely wasn't like a place I should have been in. Um, like it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah, mentally. Is that what you're talking about?
I guess like I should have been in school. I should have been in therapy. But I don't know that sending me off like that was the answer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How many placements were you sent to?
Technically 6.
Six.
Yeah, but the biggest transition that I had made was I went to, I think, 5 different places in 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, how how many states did you end up going to as a result of that?
I think it was just 3. Just 3.
Exactly. No, that's a lot when you're a kid and you're going through high school and
Of course.
growing up. Uh,
Yeah.
what was your experience being gooned like?
It was actually a lot more pleasant than I've heard stories about. I got woken up at 3 in the morning, my mom next to me, 2 random dark figures standing in the doorway because,
Yeah.
it's the middle of the night. And I look at my mom and I was just like, really? And she was just like, mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, let's go. So I didn't really put up a struggle with them. They actually said that it was a pretty pleasant experience. I had the same, it was a girl and a guy. The guy actually gooned my brother as well. And he said that we were the most pleasant kids that he's ever, scooped up in the middle of the night, I guess.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
was your brother goon before you had that
Yeah.
experience? So you already
Yeah.
had knowledge about this, and that's why you were probably in a
Yeah, I was in 6th grade when it happened to him, and I was going into, let's see if I was 9, 10. I think I was going into 11th grade when I was in 11th grade or something like that.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I understand you've been to wilderness and residentials, correct?
Yeah.
What was your experience like in wilderness?
I mean, it was like the only place that I think benefited me, just because I've always been a very like hands-on learner, and like, you know, I guess just the severity of the situation kind of put me in, honestly, like, thinking about it, I'm not really sure if it was like the program that helped, or the fact that I'd been living out of fight or flight my entire life, and that kind of put me right back into my element, you know? Like, it's kind of weird getting stripped of your entire personality and, you know, live out of a tarp for a couple months. But it was really helpful, like, having all of that, like, superficial, I guess, personality of everybody around me, just even the staff, just broken down and not even exist, and just being, you know, children of the woods.
Yeah.
I don't know what about that was helpful to me. I know it was pretty traumatizing to some other kids, but thankfully enough, I went to a pretty decent program for wilderness.
Could you briefly describe like what a wilderness program is like, just on a just a regular day-to-day basis for anyone who isn't aware?
Yeah. So basically everybody's in the same clothes. Not the same clothes, but the same clothes. You know, you're not allowed to know what time it is. You're not really like like a lot of weird strict things that are just like you're just not allowed to like do or know.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, like we weren't allowed to know where we were going if we were hiking for the day. We were just hiking, and we got there when we got there, and we didn't know what time or anything like that. And sometimes it didn't always go as planned, you know, like there was like a thunderstorm one night, and we were slow with packing up and everything, but we still had to take the hike while it was thunderstorming and getting dark. So setting up camp that night was not exactly fun. But day to day, you know, we would have groups, and we would have we were allowed to call groups for ourselves, like if we needed to talk about our feelings, make an awareness, give feedback. You know, just kind of, I don't know, we just did a lot of, it was a lot of reflection. A
Yeah.
lot of reflection.
Did they ever give you guys shelter in cases of like really bad storms, or if anyone was hurt, how did they handle situations like that?
Yeah, so I remember we actually did have a snowstorm, which was odd. Uh, you know, and they at first they just gave us, like, before it got bad,
Mhm.
they gave us tents, but it snowed too much. So they ended up having to take us out of the field and bringing us to like basically like a cabin in the woods. In a different state too. We like drove across state lines to get there.
Oh wow.
But yeah, when they didn't really get us out of there fast enough, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there was so much snow built up on one of the tents that it actually ended up falling on my friend's neck. And then, you know, like there was a branch that fell and hit one of the staff in the head. She got a sprained back and a concussion. It was
Wow.
just like everybody's stuff was wet. It was really intense, and it was like everybody's stuff was wet, and the only like tree that burned when it was wet was hemlock, and hemlock's going extinct. So it's like, what's going on? You know?
Yeah.
It was really, yeah, it was intense.
Did they notify everyone's parents when they had to drive you across state lines?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know if they notified everybody's parents. They probably notified mine, just because my mom was coming for a parent visit
Mhm.
during the time of the snowstorm. So she actually visited me when we were at the what do they call it? At the cabin thing that they brought us to. So that was like, that kind of sucked. I wanted my mom to suffer with me in the woods, but you know, camping outside on some gravel is good too.
Yeah. Um, and what was some of your experiences like in regular residentials?
You know, it was there were differences and similarities with each place. My first place, I was there for 2 years, and they actually like, they like switched houses after the first year. I was in like the more like younger kid house to the adolescent house because I was, 13
Yeah.
when I started. That place was, I don't know, they kind of just have there's most likely going to be like a no touch rule.
Yeah.
You have to ask a lot of permission for a lot of weird things, like just, I don't know, it's just it kind of is, It's a little dehumanizing everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I think the fourth place that I was at was definitely the worst. They had like a, point system basically where you had to make 10,000 points in good behavior every day, or else you had to basically sit at a table until the end of the next day to
Yeah.
see if you like made enough points to be a human the day after that.
What did they consider good behavior?
It's not so they really didn't. You would really only make points like if you did your chores and like on time too. Like if I was a minute late, and I mean a minute late, opening the blinds, I would get a negative 2,000. If I was sweeping, right, if that was my chore, they would turn off the lights and get down on the floor. I'm not even joking. Get down on the floor and say, "You missed a spot. -2." Like negative 2,000. Like turn off the lights like crazy. Like it was just, I don't know. They didn't really award good behavior like that. It was just, do it by the book or, you're screwed.
Was there consequences for not doing it?
um, Not set in stone. That was the odd thing about this place. It wasn't like a so if you if there was a kid there who was like, really just kept um getting into it with the staff or something, or just really not complying with the rules, they would do this thing called I don't even remember what it was called, but it was just like this. They would keep giving you negatives and double them each time, and you would have to make them back up. And it was like that was their idea of a consequence. With me, it got bad enough where I just felt so like dehumanized and just so put down, and just I didn't even feel like a human anymore. I felt like a number.
Yeah.
They would With me, it got really bad. They would alarm me. So this place had like they put alarms on everybody's rooms. So at night, if you cross over a certain line in your room at night, the alarm goes off. If you set the alarm off, you get a negative 10,000 points. So they would keep my room alarmed until after everybody else left for school. So they would basically like segregated me away from everybody else, and just I don't know, it was really I felt like a caged animal at that place. It was horrible. I did everything I could to get out.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds
Yeah, and I was only there for a month.
and that was
It's
the worst
awful.
one.
Yeah, by far.
Out of all the places you went, did you have any specific memories from your relationships with staff or other students that I guess you just can't seem to forget?
Like positive or negative?
Either or.
I mean, yeah, there's always I think I feel like a lot of the kids who went to treatment can agree that, there was more or less like there's going to be that one staff who's not necessarily following all the rules, but you feel extra comfortable with that person,
Yeah.
because they aren't making you feel like a caged animal. So anytime that came up for me, I always took advantage and, used that to help me. Um, I still talk to one of the staff from my first place. She doesn't work there anymore, but she's always been like very helpful. She was like a big sister to me when I was in there, especially. Um, but there are definitely things that stand out that were just not okay. Like, and honestly, I can't remember some of the like really bad things that have happened, obviously, but there were definitely times where they were not like following their like I don't even know what to call it. Like I don't know what kind of training they go through, but they just definitely did not go by that. And they would just, I've had staff scream at me like I don't know. It just doesn't seem very like professional to scream at a mentally ill teen. Like, know where you work. There were a lot of staff. There were a lot of times that I had to say that to the staff. You need to know where you work. Like,
That's
so
ridiculous.
yeah, on both ends, definitely yes.
Yeah. What about your relationships with past therapists in these places? How are those?
Well, so my first place, I was there for 2 years before I got sent to Wilderness, and my second therapist there, because I had two, um, she there were two girls who were there for probably a year longer than I had been.
Mhm.
And this therapist told my parents, yeah, she's been here too long. She needs to go. And after they sent me to Wilderness, she ended up having two more clients who had been there, who had stayed there. Like, I got there, I think, after them and left before them. And they were there way longer than me. And it was just like, she just doesn't like me and she just wants me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so she like
And
basically went around the rules to refuse helping you.
hmm And then at my last place, it was very unfortunate for me to hear that, like, I was about to turn 18. I was leaving anyway. I had gotten to a much better place. And after I left, I heard that my therapist actually wanted me to go to another aftercare, which would have been my seventh placement. And that they didn't because they knew I was going to sign myself out.
Yeah,
Which I was like, I just felt like kind of lied to by him.
yeah. Um, did you ever witness or personally experience any verbal, physical, mental, or sexual abuse while you were in treatment?
Yeah, definitely verbal. I've heard, you know, I've there was a lot of screaming,
Yeah.
just a lot of screaming always, staff and kids. Physical, I don't know if I would categorize it under physical abuse rather than lack of training. There were a lot of, I mean, I know that anytime somebody gets restrained, there has to be like an incident report filled out, but you know, there would have to be multiple written for one incident sometimes because of how it was handled by the staff,
Yeah.
in terms of physical. I've heard of I've heard a lot of stories of sexual abuse from the staff at some of the places that I'd been at, but never, I don't think, while I was there. Um,
Staff abusing
yeah, staff coming onto the kids type.
these just like
But
regular day-to-day staff or therapists or
no, I think that was regular day-to-day staff, the one that I heard about. Nothing while I was there. In terms of, I don't know if I would call it physical abuse, like as much as like I would call it neglect.
uh,
Like, I've had to, I've really had to put the staff in their place a couple of times, honestly, because, you know, like there was one girl there who needed serious medical attention because of, she was harming herself, and the staff did not body check her at all, let alone thoroughly. Um,
and when you say
and
body check, what does that mean?
basically, nothing like none of those areas, but like, they'll check your arms and your legs and your stomach just to make sure that you're not hurting yourself.
Are there
And
scars?
yeah, stuff like that. And I wasn't, I brought it to their attention. They said they handled it. When it wasn't handled, it clearly wasn't handled, because if it was, she would have been on her way to the hospital. I made them do it again in front of me. And I said, yo, like, if you really let this slide right now, like, I'll get you fired, because you will get, like, she ended up needing 13 stitches. It was really intense. And I just think that that level of neglect is just, should not be, that staff should have been fired.
Yeah. Do you
And the
think they
second that they
were
saw that, and I was like, like they were like, oh shoot. I was like, yeah, you know,
do you think they
it's
just
really
didn't
bad.
believe you that there was something going on or they didn't care? Why do you think they did that? Just from your observation.
Yeah. You know, looking back on it now, it was probably, I don't know if they believed me. I don't know if they thought it was awkward. I don't know if they just didn't care enough. Um, but, you know, and I don't know if it was just they didn't know where they worked. But it was a lot of you need to know where you work, you
Yeah.
know. Like it's not just a I don't know, it's not just a like a volunteer job. It's not just a charity case. You're not just, you know, going to change our lives forever cuz you're working here. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot more intense than a lot of them I don't know, think that it is when they go into that career field, I guess. You
Yeah.
know, like I I there were a lot of times where I would get in trouble for the staff going home crying that night or something like that. Or they'd be, oh, you made the staff cry. It's like, okay, well, you need to understand where I am. You know what I mean? Like, you need to understand. Like, I wasn't, I'm not like coming at that person or anything like that. But like, maybe the level of intensity that I was coming with was too much for that person.
And
And that's just not like it shouldn't have been pinned on like some of those kinds of things shouldn't have been pinned on me. Some of them obviously yes, but some of them definitely no. You know.
yeah, in that situation, if that staff can't handle a child yelling at them when we're all getting treatment for mental health, maybe they shouldn't have been there in the first place,
Yeah,
would be the
exactly.
argument. Um, would you say like your experience in the troubled teen industry as a whole has helped you heal overall or made you worse based on traumatizing experiences you experienced while there?
I mean, I've had a long time. It's almost been like 4 or 5 years since I was there, which is just crazy to think about. But I know like like right after I left, I was like the first couple of months, I was like, it feels like I'm doing the work now. It feels like they like gave me a survival kit, and then when I left, I was like thrown into some random, survival situation,
Yeah.
and that was kind of just like because I was thrown into the real world. I just graduated high school
Mhm.
and I got no help preparing for college. So like any of that, like I kind of stopped thinking about therapy after that and started thinking about like my life as a whole because it just seemed like such a long time to me when I was in there. It really felt like I was doing time. Like it was just I don't know, but more so after I left, I did a lot of work on myself and you know,
So you'd say you learned skills to help you along the way, but overall, like,
no, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I don't think I learned many skills in treatment because I don't think the approach that I don't think I found the right type of like therapeutic approach until uh wilderness and then when I left. Um,
the right type for
a lot of the work that they it was a lot of trauma work. I can definitely say that when I left, I did not have to look into my past anymore.
yeah,
Like the only trauma that I had when I left was definitely from treatment, but all the past stuff like I was able to look past and work through and
yeah,
so in terms of my inner child and all the trauma from childhood, that was all, said and done when I left, but I had no idea. I had no idea when I was in for when I left. I definitely needed therapy still. I definitely needed help with a lot of things. I was definitely still struggling with a lot of a lot of addiction in terms of self-harm and you know,
yeah,
it took a while after for me to get to a good place.
yeah, definitely. Would you
Yeah.
say that your therapist or your treatment team at your very last residential helped try to set you up with a therapist for when you left
No. No.
at all?
No. They wanted me gone.
That's why.
Nah, they wanted me out of there.
And being in treatment, were you pretty consistently in treatment from 13 to 18?
Yeah, I never had a break.
So you never learned things like how to drive a car, getting
Sorry,
a
I'm so sorry.
license?
No, I when I was 16, I did go on a home pass and get my permit. So every time that I went home, like just for visiting, um, I was driving, but I didn't get my license until I was 18. Um, I really like was delayed in every way because of it.
And did all your placements have school so you were able to keep up like any other kid your age?
Yeah, everywhere except for wilderness. I think I was supposed to be doing schoolwork while I was there, but for some reason it got ruled out. And honestly, I'm very, very grateful that it did because I don't know how I would have juggled doing schoolwork as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So did you graduate on time with your class?
Um, I did actually. Yeah, I was a little surprised about that, but yeah, I did. I had it was weird because I had no idea. Like a lot of the other girls were doing, or a lot of the other students, sorry, were they were doing like a lot of college prep and getting a lot of help with what they were gonna do after. And I never saw any of that. So I was just really like it kind of wasn't a choice, like going to college or not after, like right after. Um
Oh,
I had no preparation and I left in June, so it was just like, you know,
definitely.
yeah.
It's probably nice leaving in the summer and not having to go straight into a school year too. But
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
um, if
would
you
have been
could
awkward.
change,
Like,
what'd you say?
I said it would have been awkward.
Yeah, that's true. If you could change anything about the troubled teen industry as a whole, like in general, not a specific placement, um, what would you change?
I can't say everything, but like most things, you know, like definitely they need the staff there need more intensive, better training, a deeper background check for sure. Like I can't tell you how many times I've just it's like, what do you mean this staff got fired for that? Like, didn't you check their background? Like, you know, I don't know. It just seemed like they were willing to let anybody work there. Um,
And there's such a high turnover rate too.
yeah, a lot of the staff get burnt out, which is why they need the intensive training. Like, if you're serious about that, I don't know. And I would hear all the time, like, you know, oh, you guys are just here for the money. It's like, but they're not, because they're probably getting paid $14 an hour, which is why they're doing such a terrible job at like keeping us safe and contained. Um, yeah, I don't even know. I don't know, honestly, because it was just,
Sounds like creating safer environment would be,
yeah, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe I don't even know, honestly. Yeah, it's just so like it's such a horrible system.
yeah,
Like they really don't put enough effort into that, like into making it a safe environment at all. They don't do that.
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um, Getting a little deep, but um, if you could tell your 13-year-old self as you were going into treatment anything, what advice would you give yourself?
Mm, I don't know. Honestly, like if I'm just be 100% honest, like,
Please, yeah.
and it's kind of messed up, but you know, I'd probably say, look, like, look, kiddo, nobody's gonna listen to what you want to do, and you're gonna be here for 4 years regardless. So freak out if you wanna, because now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, and it's horrible, but
No, that makes
you
sense.
know, if I had the chance to punch one more wall in treatment and not get in trouble for it, like,
That's fair, yeah.
I don't know.
A
Yeah,
lot of
but
a lot of built up
but
emotions from all of it.
yeah, but I would definitely tell myself that I would you know, that place is not my entire life. It's such a short part of my life, like that I would let myself know where I'm gonna get to on my own, literally on my own, like doing what I want to do, which is just, I never thought I would get here. I didn't think I would be alive, you
Absolutely.
know,
Sadly, that's pretty
the
common for
case.
most people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, looks like we only have a couple minutes left, but would you mind just giving our viewers a little synopsis of where you're headed now in life after all this?
Yeah. So, I haven't been in school since I graduated, so it's been, I think, like 3 years now. I've just been doing, you know, regular retail jobs. I hadn't really found anything in terms of a hobby that really stuck with me that I wanted to do with my life. But I had always like had a serious passion for music. And I really looked into that within the last like 6 months, and now, you know, I'm about to start school in the city at a recording studio, learning how to produce, mix, and master for others and myself, which is just so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Exciting
Yeah,
news.
very.
Hope that goes well for you.
Thank you.
We'll be linking some of Emma's socials if you guys want to follow or, I don't know, learn more about Emma. But thank you for joining me today on Survivors Voices. Appreciate
Of course.
you and your honesty.
Happy to share.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, have a good one.
Thanks, you too.